Reverence. A reverent attitude. Why is it important to cross yourself when you pass a church? Why is it important to not put a lot of things on top of a Bible? If a Bible's lying down on a bookshelf, don't put a lot of other books on top of it. These are things that I was taught when I was growing up, to always bow when you pass by the altar in church. Cross yourself when you pass the church, when you drive past one. These are called sacramentals, I think, these small rituals that we do, these small gestures that we make. Why are they important? This is something that I've had people confront me with. And this is something that I worry about as my kids grow up. If I'm not around, I definitely want to leave them my understanding of this, so they'll understand it. Now, there's all kinds of great reasons for doing this, and I'm not saying any of those reasons are wrong. I just want to communicate my understanding of why I do it. Have you ever been lost and not know where you are? Perhaps when you were young in a big store. Okay, I learned very early on, because I was in Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts. They tell you that if you get lost, whatever you do, don't run. So this is an important thing to learn, because if you're lost and you run, you might run in the wrong direction and not know it. And you think you're running towards help. You think you're running towards the highway if you're in a forest. But actually you're just running deeper and deeper in the forest. Okay? Or in the mountains. Something like that. Very important to not run. Don't move. Stay put. Okay, that's one thing that a lot of people criticize the Orthodox churches. I know the Ethiopian Orthodox, the Coptic churches, the Eastern Orthodox, Armenian churches. A lot of these churches haven't changed since ancient Rome was around. Since like the 5th century. Okay, so 1500 years. Their church service, their liturgy, has been exactly the same hymns. I know in Serbia, they have the service is in Old Slavonic. It's in a language that's no longer spoken anymore. Very, very similar to the Catholic Church and the Latin Mass. The Latin Mass that's recently under a great deal of attack. Okay, because the Catholic Church wants to move. Wants to go in a direction. Okay, and all these older churches, all these really ancient churches, the Eastern Orthodox, the Coptic churches, the Armenian churches, they don't want to move. And I like that, because that's just like that teaching when you're a kid. Okay, don't go anywhere. And if you go somewhere and you're not sure where you're going, don't go fast. Because you're going to get really, really lost. So that's one criticism that I heard from actually a Coptic Christian about the Orthodox Church, that the Orthodox Church had moved quite a bit since the Council of Chalcedon. Okay, a little bit of church history there. But a lot of these churches haven't done anything major to their belief system, to their teachings, to their liturgy, their church service in 1500 years. And I like that. I like that. I don't like a church with a lot of innovations. Okay, and this is something that's important, I think. And little sacramentals like this. A lot of people say when I practice things like this, when I cross myself, when I say prayers at nighttime, when I say prayers before I eat, when I say prayers when I wake up, they say that I don't belong in the modern age. I belong in like medieval period. And to tell you the truth, when I was studying philosophy, I really identified with that medieval philosophy. I really understood it. But back to these sacramentals, back to these little rituals, okay? I think it's important to have continuous reminders of the reality of the spiritual world, the reality of God, the reality of angels, the reality of our ancestors that have passed on. They're still around. We can't see them. We can't interact with them regularly. But that doesn't mean that they're not aware of what we're doing somehow. It doesn't mean that God isn't watching. Even though we might not be aware, we might have the illusion of being on our own, but we're really not. So it's healthy to remind yourself of the reality of these forces around you. The reality of the church, that the church is a very, very ancient institution. It's helpful, I think, to think of the church like a technology that came into the world with an instruction book. This is how you use this device. And these are teachings that go way, way, way back. I thought it was Justin Martyr, but I got corrected recently. It wasn't Justin Martyr, I don't think. It was another early church historian, I think perhaps Eusebius. I can't remember now. But it was maybe during the 3rd century, maybe during the 200 AD period. There was a persecution, and a lot of the bishops, a lot of the church leaders were being picked up and executed publicly to try to quash Christianity. And he said in his book, and it survives today, that all the Christians he knows have worn out their foreheads from crossing themselves. And so people made the sign of the cross when they prayed, way back then, during these ancient Roman persecutions. So if they were doing it then, it's good to do it now, even if you don't necessarily understand it. But here's my understanding, okay? One, it's a reminder. It's a reminder of the reality of a lot of these forces. The reality that your life is short. The reality that God is real. The reality that judgment is real. The reality that there are a lot of forces around you, interacting with you, that you might not be aware of. Thoughts that you have might not be your thoughts. They might be coming from somewhere else, trying to lead you somewhere that you might not want to go. Okay. Images also are important. People think about what they see, so it's good to have pictures of saints around. You should always have a saint or a picture of the Virgin Mary, the Mother of God, or a picture of Christ or the cross. Some kind of reminder in every room in your house. It doesn't have to be big. It can be quite small, as long as you know where it is, and as long as a guest might see it. Give God the opportunity to lead someone to that if they need it. So it's there. It should be there in every room. Don't put things on top of the Bible. Why? Because the Bible is not just another book. It's not. It's something very different. Okay? The Bible is, I don't believe, the Bible is as important as church. You can go to heaven and never own a Bible, but you've got to go to church and pay attention to the priest, go to confession, follow the teachings. If you have a Bible, it's still important to go to church and receive the sacraments and interact with the priest regularly, so the priest can guide you in your life and let you know, hey, you're off the track. Or, hey, you're doing good. You're on the right track. How are you going to know? How are you going to know if something supernatural occurs to you? How are you going to know if that's a gift from God? or if it's something leading you away from God. How are you going to know that if you're not interacting with church regularly? And the Bible can help with that. But it's important to remember the Bible is not just another book. Don't put a lot of things on top of it. That's another reminder. If you start doing that, if you don't cross yourself in public before you eat, if you don't say prayers, if you don't have reminders, little pictures of saints or crosses in your environment, if you treat the Bible as just another book, you're going to forget how important the church is. You're going to forget how real God and his angels and the saints are. And you're going to be lost. And if you do find yourself lost, and you feel it, I'm lost, that right there is an excellent sign. Okay? The worst thing that can happen is that years can go by with you being lost and running away before you realize that you're lost. So if you keep these sacramentals, these little rituals, if you're aware of the importance of the church, the importance and reality of God, then you're going to receive help in dark times, and you're not going to be so lost. I hope that makes sense. Take care.